What's going on, guys? I'm the Reel Jussy of the Distorted Theorist, and today is a very special day on our channel because this is the very first episode of Real Talk. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while, playing off the Reel Jussy, and like we always say around here, but to keep it real, I want to do something where I talk about video games, movies, what have you, and give you some real honest thoughts on kind of if you should go see it, if you should buy it, and basically not hold anything back so that you think I'm promoting something that just because I thought I liked it. But today, I really wanted to start with The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Now, as you can tell, I got a few books, got the Triforce, and you'll see a few other things shortly. Skyward Sword for me was the Legend of Zelda game. Now, I realize a lot of people are going to come at me probably in the comments. They're like, Ocarina of Time, Breath of the Wild, and I understand that. However, for its time, what Skyward Sword did as a video game, to me, just blew me away. But we're not here to talk about Skyward Sword, which came out 11 years ago. Ooh, that dates me. But what we're here to talk about is the new release of Skyward Sword HD for the Nintendo Switch. Now, with that purchase, I also got something with it as a pre-order bonus, which I never got to because I don't think we had the channel incepted at that time. So allow me to start first, before we get to the real talk, to just show out a few cool things that I got when I pre-ordered this. So it comes with some pretty cool artwork. There's multiple. The first one here is a Link silhouette with some of the characters from the game. I won't get into it too much because of the spoilers. Here's just a nice, when you're on your Loftwing flying through the sky. And here we have, of course, the princess herself, Zelda. So guys, what I wanted to do, Skyward Sword for me was a game that after you'd done Ocarina of Time, you played Majora's Mask, and then you had Wind Waker. Now, for me, I loved Ocarina of Time. Did I beat it without dying with only 3 hearts? Yes, I did. But then came Majora's Mask, and although the graphics stayed the same, which I did enjoy that part of it, the story for me, unfortunately, I just didn't dig it. I mean, I don't know, it just didn't grab me the way that Ocarina of Time did at the time. Then came Wind Waker, and the game was good as like a story arc, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately for me personally, I didn't really enjoy those, I guess I call them cartoon style graphics or what have you, so it didn't really grip me. Then of course along came the Wii, and we all knew a Zelda game was going to be coming, and they launched Skyward Sword. Now, when I bought Skyward Sword on the Wii, I also got this special edition little baby right here, which is an authentic Legend of Zelda nunchuck in full gold, and I still have it in mint condition. And of course, I want to take a second to show that off to all the viewers. Sorry about the light hitting it. But yeah, it was pretty fun. So, when Skyward Sword HD dropped, you know, I had to go and cop the nunchucks special edition once again. You see them, they're actually gorgeous, which I do like better than that one, don't get me wrong. But there we are. I had to grab that as well because Skyward Sword for me was the Zelda game. Now, I'm going to talk to you guys today a little bit about the hits and the misses of what the new Skyward Sword for the Nintendo Switch brings to the system. First of all, let's talk about the good stuff. As I was replaying this game, now mind you, 11 years later, every element of the game still grabbed me. The story, every time I got in a fight, the way the temples operated, the puzzles, so to speak, even all the weapons, and you get a lot of weapons in the chests in this game. And I was afraid that I would be feeling repetitive if I played it again, but good for me, as I was playing, it was just bringing back all the emotions that I felt in the first one. Now, one thing I do want to stress is, we all know since 11 years ago, a lot of Zelda games have came out. However, the biggest one and the game changer, Breath of the Wild. I want to let everyone know who might think about playing Skyward Sword, it has big shoes to fill because of the technology that has advanced and Breath of the Wild and the hype that that game has gotten. However, we need to take a step back with Skyward Sword and realize that it did come out 11 years ago, so it's going to play like an 11-year-old game in the sense of what scope of parameters you could do in the game, etc. And having said that, I assure you that Skyward Sword still makes you feel like, if not more than Breath of the Wild, that you're playing a Legend of Zelda game. Breath of the Wild, sure, let you, go on your own. It was an open world. Obviously, a multitude of weapons that could break, mind you, But this one really takes us back to the basics, and if you grew up playing Zelda like I did, you will thoroughly enjoy Skyward Sword from that scope, because it lets you do all the things. Find the big chest, find the big item. You can't proceed until you find the item, which, you know what? Yeah, Breath of the Wild lets you do your thing, but sometimes in a Zelda game especially, it's nice to go back to the basics. I also recall that, again, showing off a little something, when I got Skyward Sword back on the Wii, I managed to pick up the, I guess, walkthrough or the strategy guide, people call it. It's an also collector's edition. Like I said, guys, I'm a huge Zelda fan. Also got the gold leafing. I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up, but the pages are gold leafed on the edges. But it just shows you some great artwork, and this still holds up. Again, I kept it in mint condition. Just kind of shows you some of the characters and stuff like that on here. I'm just paraphrasing it. It even gives you some map breakdowns of stuff like that. Now, one thing I did want to talk about is what Skyward Sword gets right, like I said. One thing is the dungeons. As I was playing it through, now mind you, I only finished it a few days ago on the replay of the HD version, and the temples, they're so cool, even compared to Ocarina of Time, because some parts of the temples, and I'll try to be as little spoilery as I could here, some parts of the temple don't even make you feel like you're a part of the temple. So for example, you may see in the horizon a temple and you're like, okay, well that's the fire temple or whatever. But it actually makes you play through with villains, with enemies, with bosses, your trek up a volcano or your trek up a mountain or your trek in a valley before you get there, where you have to solve puzzles, where you have to use your weapons you can't proceed, like the hook shot or what have you. So it actually makes you feel like you're just playing a cool game, and then when you get like towards the end, you find the master key or the boss key, whatever you want to call it, and you're like, oh, that was a part of the temple, sort of like a build-up. And then not only that, when you unlock the temple, then you have a whole new temple ahead of you, which is pretty sick. I love how they designed, well, you're in Skyloft. For any of those who don't know, you start off in Skyloft, which is a city or I guess a village, community, whatever you want to call it, floating above the clouds, and the citizens do not know what's below the clouds. So you get these pieces of rock floating, and you can use your Loftwing, which is like a bird style thing in the game, to go between each one. So that does give you a little open worldness there, although it does restrict how far you can go. But then below that, you have your grass temples or your grass areas, as we're accustomed to, your water areas, your fire areas, your deserts. And they do something really cool in Skyward Sword. And what they do is they bring you to the forest, and you can play through the first part of it, but you can see stuff within the forest that you can't access. And you actually play from the forest to the next part, and it circles back, and now you have the tools to access the rest of those forests, and that's pretty cool. And little spoiler here, in one part they flood the whole forest, and you have to play through it again, which I thought was sick. Another great part of this, guys, trying to be not too spoilery, is the time shift stones, which come in the desert. Basically, they're these stones that when you strike them with any kind of weapon, it gives you a parameter, I'll call it, of back in time. So when you show up, there's sand and desert and tumbleweeds and all this stuff, but if you hit one of those stones in, let's say, a 20-foot radius around the stone, now it goes back in the past, so you have lush greenery, you have enemies who were now long dead coming back to life. And when I first seen that in Skyward Sword, I thought it was amazing, and I tell you what, I've seen it in this game, and it shocked me twice, because I loved it just as much as I did the first time. So on all those notes, guys, I'm telling you right now, great game in that essence. Here's what I didn't like, though, about the new Nintendo Switch version. The new one, first of all, the controls. Unfortunately, like I just said, this game was made for the Wii. Now they're trying to incorporate it on the Switch, and as good a job as they tried to do, some of the controls did annoy me quite a bit. You have to use ZR, I think it is, and then rotate your Joy-Con to go to all your weapon loadout, which is in a circular form in this game. And there'll be lots of time where you let go of ZR and it would take out the wrong weapon, and you'd be hitting B to use it, and you would send off your beetle flyer, and you were just like, what? So you had to go back in and do it again, and sometimes 2 or 3 attempts and it still wouldn't pick it up. It was very frustrating. I wish Nintendo had worked a little bit better to graft that in. Not sure what they were doing there, but you know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, it didn't really cause too much grief, but it was enough to pick up my annoyance. The second thing was, again, back to the controls, is with Skyward Sword, they were heavily based on the Joy-Con and the motion control. So you hold up for your Skyward Sword, you strike up, down, up, left, right, diagonal, and a lot of the bosses, a lot of the enemies, they focus on this. They hold their sword here, so you have to come from this way, or they hold their sword up top, so you come from the bottom or side, which was all great, and it is a part of the game. However, with the Joy-Con, I mean, I played it in handheld version. So just to show everyone, I played it as you see it right here, like this, which I wanted to do because I was playing in my spare time, what have you. But you have to flick this controller up, down, left, and make the cuts, and it's very hard, as where when I played it on Wii, you had the motion controls, and you know, every swipe you made or a shield block, it worked perfectly. Now, I realize if you play this at home on a television with your Switch docked and use the nunchuck separately, it may work just as fine. I didn't participate in that when I played it, so I can't really say, but if someone in the comments wants to let me know if it's more fluent or less fluent, let me know because I'd love to know. The other thing, again, like I said before, it can't hold a candle to Breath of the Wild because of the play system, but when you do go back in time and play an 11-year-old game, you do feel like you've been slighted a little bit because Breath of the Wild has come out and you have this grand scheme of a map, and that's one thing, unfortunately, that Skyward Sword doesn't hold up well. While yes, the map is large and you get your sections of the forest and the desert and the fire areas and all that stuff, on the grand scheme of things, when you step back and look at it, they're actually very small. You do revisit many places, like I said, as cool as it is, and sometimes you realize you're revisiting the same place over and over again 3 to 4 times in a playthrough. And, you know, you do that with each one. So, I mean, you're revisiting things like 12 times, really. And then, of course, the game always makes you go back to Skyloft in the clouds to talk to non-playable characters or pick up some items or upgrade your stuff. Speaking of which, let's flip back to the good stuff. You can upgrade most of your items up to 3 times, including swords, shields, weapons, even the tools like we know in Ocarina of Time, you get a hook shot. Well, in this one, you can upgrade it, let's say a longer hook shot or whatever. Well, you can't do the hook shot in this particular game, but just to give you an idea. There's certain things like you get a beetle, which just flies around and like cuts things with its pincers, but later you can get a pickup option where it can pick up stuff. You can get a speed up option. You can get a last longer option. So as you're flying it, you don't run out of juice and you can do more things, pick up more coins, stuff like that. That part is really cool. The side quests, I didn't really do all of them on this playthrough. I'm not gonna lie, I was rushing a little bit to get to the new Pokemon Arceus. But some of the side quests, they hold up, but other ones are kind of tedious and you're like, I don't really want to bring this dragon some pumpkin soup. But you gotta do it. Other than that, guys, that's just me, you know, being real talk with you guys. Like I said, I just want to let some guys and girls out there know, maybe you're on the fence about buying Skyward Sword. Maybe you don't want to get it. Maybe you do. You're not sure because maybe you played it 11 years ago. Maybe Breath of the Wild is the end-all be-all for you. But in the end, here's my real talk. I suggest you go and get Skyward Sword. And that is an honest opinion, guys. I played it through a second time, even after 11 years. I absolutely loved it. I couldn't put it down in some cases. I wanted to keep going, but I had to. But you know what? Even though with those tedious controls, knowing the game is older, there's something about following a linear storyline that made me giddy all over again for a Legend of Zelda game. And for those of you watching, if you got a second, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this, more real talk, and maybe it'll make you maybe it'll help make you an educated decision in the future for a game or movie. And I'm happy to spread the news here with you guys of what I thought. And like I said, maybe in the future, you'll see some more of these and be like, man, this guy really is spitting the real talk. Anyway, guys, I'm the Reel Jussy of Distorted Tears. Thank you for joining me again on the first episode of Real Talk. It was a pleasure. And like we always say around here, keep it real.